Listen to me. The man who really loves you, he's going to confuse you. Bad. And I know that sounds crazy. You've been told your whole life that when a man loves you, things should feel easy, clear, simple, like you just know. But that's total foolishness. And it's been messing you up this whole time. But here's the thing. When a man starts catching real feelings for you, he doesn't move closer. He backs up. He gets quiet. He acts weird. And everything you've ever learned tells you that means he's done with you. But what if it actually means he's falling for you? I know this sounds backwards, but hear me when I tell you this. You're probably sitting there thinking about him right now, about how things were so good and then they just weren't. How he used to text you constantly and now you're lucky if you get one text back. How he seems so into you and now it feels like he's on another planet and you're sitting there going crazy, wondering what you did wrong, wondering if he met someone else, wondering if you imagined the whole connection. But here's what nobody is telling you, my sister. You didn't do anything wrong. He didn't meet someone else. And that connection, it was real. So real that it scared him. Because when a man feels something real, something that actually matters, his brain does something a woman's brain don't do. It panics. Not because he doesn't want you, because he does. And that scares the mess out of him. Think about it. Women process feelings by talking, by getting closer, by wanting more connection. That's how y'all deal with emotions. You feel something, you move toward it. But men, we process feelings by pulling back, by needing space, by going into our own head to figure out what the hell is happening to us. And the bigger the feelings, the more space he needs. So when he disappears for a few days, when he takes forever to text back, when he suddenly can't hang out as much, you think he's losing interest, but he's actually trying to understand why you matter so much. He's trying to deal with the fact that you got under his skin, that he can't stop thinking about you, that for the first time in a long time, maybe ever, a woman actually matters. But here's where women mess it all up. The second he pulls back, y'all panic. You start thinking something's wrong and you start texting more, asking if he's okay, trying to figure out what changed. You want to talk about it. You want him to explain himself. You need reassurance. And every single one of those things pushes him further away. Not because he doesn't care, but because you're proving to him that you don't understand how a man works, that you need him to process feelings like a woman. And when you do that, you're basically telling him you can't handle who he actually is. A man who's falling for you doesn't need you to chase him when he backs up. He needs you to let him breathe. He needs to see that you're okay when he's quiet, that you're not falling apart because he didn't text you back in 10 minutes, that your whole mood don't depend on how much attention he gives you. Because here's what he's really testing. Can you handle him when he's in his head? Can you give him room to be himself? Or are you going to lose your mind every time he needs space? Think about it like this. When you get stressed, you probably want to talk to your friends, vent, process out loud. That's how you deal with stuff. But when a man gets stressed or confused or emotional about something, he doesn't want to talk. He wants to be left alone. He wants to think. He wants to work it out in his own head without somebody asking him what's wrong every 5 seconds. And when he's falling for you, that's exactly what's happening. He's stressed because he cares. He's confused because these feelings are real and he needs time alone to figure out what to do with all of that. But most women can't handle it. The second he goes quiet, They think the worst. They assume he's pulling away because he doesn't like them anymore. So they try to fix it. They reach out more. They ask what's wrong. They try to have the talk. And all of that just makes him feel pressured, smothered, like you're trying to control how he feels and when he feels it. And that's when he actually does pull away for real. Not because he didn't love you, but because you couldn't let him love you in the way his brain knows how. So let me ask you something right now. When he goes quiet, what do? Do you panic and reach out? Or do you stay cool and give him space? Be honest with yourself. Answer in the comments. And if this is hitting you right now, hit like, subscribe, and share this with a friend who needs to hear this. Because understanding this one thing about men will change everything. Here's what most women don't get. Men aren't complicated. Their feelings aren't mysterious. It's just that we process everything differently than y'all do. And when you try to make a man handle emotions the way you handle emotions, it don't work. It's like trying to force someone who speaks Spanish to suddenly speak French. Can't do it. And the more you push, the more we shut down. When a man cares about you, really cares, he starts thinking about the future, about what this means, about whether he's ready for this, about whether he can be the man you need. And all of that thinking happens inside his head, not in conversation with you. He's not going to sit you down and say, listen, I'm scared because I'm falling for you and I don't know if I'm ready for something serious. That's not how men work. Instead, he just gets quiet. He needs time to sort through his own feelings without pressure, without questions, without you trying to speed up the process. And here's the thing that'll blow your mind. That quiet period, that's when he's deciding if you're the one. He's not pulling away because he's done. He's pulling back to see if this is real, to see if you can handle him at his worst, his most confusing, his most distant. Because if you can't handle him when he's in his head, you can't handle a real relationship with him. Relationships aren't just the good times. They're also the times when he shuts down, when he needs space, when he's dealing with his own stuff and can't give you attention. And he needs to know you're still strong enough for that. But most women fail this test without even knowing they're being tested. They see his distance and think it's rejection. So they chase, they text, they ask what's wrong, they try to get things back to normal. And every time they do that, they're showing him they can't handle the real him. They're showing him they need constant reassurance, constant attention, constant validation. And that's exhausting for a man because he knows if you need that now, you'll need it forever. And he can't be responsible for your emotional state every single day. The women who get this, the women who understand how a man thinks, they do something completely different. When he pulls back, they don't chase. They stay in their own life. They keep hanging out with friends. They keep doing their hobbies. They keep being happy and busy and independent. They don't sit around waiting for his text. They don't analyze every little thing. They just live. And you know what happens? He notices. He feels it. He sees a woman who doesn't need him to feel okay. A woman who's perfectly fine, whether he's around or not. And that's when something switches in his brain. That's when he realizes you're different. That's when he stops running and starts chasing. Because here's the secret that changes everything. Men want what they can't control. We want a woman who has her own life, her own happiness, her own strength. We don't want someone who falls apart when we need space. We don't want someone whose whole world revolves around us. That feels like pressure, like responsibility, like a trap. But a woman who's solid on her own, a woman who gives him space without making him feel guilty, that's the woman he can't stop thinking about. That's the woman he wants to lock down before she realizes she doesn't need him. Think about every romantic movie you've ever seen. The man always chases the woman who doesn't chase him back. The woman who has her own thing going on. The woman who's not sitting by the phone waiting. That's not just movie magic. That's real psychology. Men are wired to pursue, but we can't pursue someone who's already all in, who's already chasing us, who's already making us the center of their universe. There's nothing to pursue there. The game's already over. But a woman who's not falling all over us, a woman who's cool when we're around and cool when we're not, that's the woman we can't get out of our head. So, here's what you need to understand. His confusion isn't a bad sign. His distance isn't rejection. His quietness isn't the end. It's actually the beginning. It's him realizing you matter. It's him trying to figure out what to do with these feelings. It's him testing whether you're strong enough to handle a real man with real emotions that don't always show up the way you expect. And the worst thing you can do is take it personally. The worst thing you can do is make his processing about you, because it's not. It has nothing to do with whether you're good enough, pretty enough, interesting enough. It has everything to do with him trying to protect himself from getting hurt. Men have been hurt too. Men have been in relationships that didn't work. Men have felt like they gave everything and it wasn't enough. And when we start feeling something real again, all of that old pain comes back up. So we slow down, we pull back, we protect ourselves. And if you punish us for that, you're just proving we were right to be scared. But if you understand it, if you give us room to feel what we're feeling without making it a problem, something amazing happens. We relax. We open up. We start moving toward you again because you just showed us you're safe. You're not going to lose your mind every time we're not perfect. You're going to need us to be available 24/7. You're not going to make our feelings wrong just because they don't match yours. Now, I want you to think about this. Have you ever had a man who was super into you, always available, always texting, always wanting to hang out? And did you find yourself losing interest? Be honest. There was probably something about all that availability that felt off. Like he didn't have anything else going on. Like you were his whole world. And that probably didn't feel as good as you thought it would. It probably felt like pressure. Like if you weren't into it, you'd be destroying him. That's how men feel when women chase too hard. When women can't handle space, when women need constant reassurance. The men you probably remember most, the ones you couldn't stop thinking about, they probably gave you space. They probably weren't always available. They probably confused you a little. And that confusion kept you hooked, not because you're broken or have issues, but because that push and pull, that mystery, that challenge, it created tension. And tension creates attraction. When everything's too easy, too available, too predictable, the spark dies for men and women both. So when he confuses you, when he pulls back, when he goes quiet, he's not playing games. He's not trying to manipulate you. He's just being a man who's processing big feelings in the only way his brain knows how. And your job isn't to fix it or chase it or make sense of it. Your job is to stay solid, to trust that if it's real, he'll figure it out, to give him the space to miss you, to let him come back on his own without punishing him for needing time. Here's the hard truth most women never accept. Love isn't about constant closeness. It's not about never having doubts. It's not about always feeling sure. Love is messy. It's confusing. It's scary for men and women both. But men handle that fear by pulling back. And if you can't handle that, if you need love to look a certain way all the time, you're going to struggle with every real relationship you ever have. The strongest women, the ones men can't resist, they get this. They don't panic when he's quiet. They don't assume the worst when he needs space. They trust themselves enough to let him have his process. They know their worth doesn't depend on how much attention he gives them. They know they're amazing whether he's around or not. And that confidence, that strength, that's what makes a man feel safe enough to actually fall all the way in love. Because here's what men are really scared of. We're scared of losing ourselves. We're scared of becoming someone we don't recognize. We're scared of giving up our freedom, our hobbies, our friends, our identity. And when a woman can't handle space, when she needs constant attention, he knows that's exactly what will happen. He knows he'll have to give up parts of himself to keep her happy. And that feels like death to a man. That feels like prison. But a woman who has her own life, a woman who doesn't need him around all the time, that's a woman he can love without losing himself. That's a woman he can build a life with without feeling trapped. That's a woman he'll actually commit to because she's not asking him to be someone he's not. She's letting him be himself, messy processing and all. So when he backs up, when he gets weird, when he stops texting as much, don't panic. Don't chase. Don't make it mean something it doesn't mean. Just keep living your life. Keep being happy. Keep being you. Let him see that you're perfectly fine without him glued to your side. Let him miss you. Let him wonder what you're doing. Let him realize that if he doesn't step up, someone else might. Not because you're playing games, but because you actually are living a full life that doesn't revolve around him. And here's what happens when you do this right. He comes back every single time. Not in days, sometimes maybe not even in weeks, but he comes back. And when he does, he's different. He's more sure. He's more committed. He's more open because he worked through whatever he needed to work through. And he chose you. Not because you convinced him, not because you chased him, but because you gave him the space to realize on his own that you're what he wants. That's the difference between forcing a relationship and letting one grow. When you force it, when you need constant reassurance, when you can't handle his process, you might keep him around for a while, but it won't last. He'll eventually feel suffocated and leave, or he'll stay and resent you. But when you let him have his space, when you stay solid in yourself, when you trust the process, you build something real, something that lasts, something where both people can actually be themselves. Now, let me ask you this. When he pulled back last time, what did you do? Did you chase? Did you text him asking what was wrong? Or did you give him space and keep living your life? Think about what happened next. If you chased, did it bring him closer or push him further away? Be really honest with yourself here. Write your answer in the comments. And if this is making sense to you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with a friend who's going through this right now. There's something else most women miss completely. When a man pulls back, he's not just processing his feelings about you. He's processing his feelings about himself. He's asking himself if he's ready for this, if he's good enough for you, if he can be the man you need. Men put an insane amount of pressure on ourselves in relationships. We feel like we have to be the provider, the protector, the rock. And when we're not sure we can be all of that, we back up. We question everything. We wonder if we should even be in a relationship right now. And if you're sitting there blowing up his phone, needing explanations, needing reassurance, you're adding to that pressure. You're making him feel like he's already failing, like he can't even give you what you need and things aren't even serious yet. And that makes him want to run, not because he doesn't care, but because he feels like he's already letting you down and he hasn't even really started yet. But when you give him space, when you're cool and calm and not falling apart, you're showing him he doesn't have to be perfect. You're showing him you can handle the ups and downs. You're showing him he can be human around you, that he can have moments where he's not sure, where he needs to think, where he's not showing up at 100%. And that's when he relaxes. That's when he stops seeing the relationship as pressure and starts seeing it as something good, something he wants, something worth committing to. Think about it from his side for a second. Imagine you're starting to really care about someone. And it's scary because you've been hurt before. You've been in relationships where you gave everything and it wasn't enough, where you tried so hard and it still fell apart. So you're being careful. You're taking your time. You're making sure this is real before you go all in. And then this person starts getting anxious, starts questioning everything, starts needing constant validation that you're still interested. How would that feel? Would it make you want to move closer or back up? That's exactly how men feel when women can't handle space. It doesn't matter that your intentions are good. It doesn't matter that you just want clarity. All he feels is pressure. All he sees is someone who needs too much too soon. All he thinks is, if she's this needy now, what's it going to be like later? And I know that's hard to hear. I know you don't see yourself as needy. You just want to understand what's happening. You just want him to communicate. You just want to feel secure. But men don't operate on security first. We operate on freedom first. We need to feel like we have room to breathe before we can feel safe getting close. It's backwards from how women work. I know, but it's how we're wired. And fighting against it doesn't change it. It just pushes us away. The women who win with men, the ones who end up in those solid, committed relationships, they all understand this one thing. You can't control his process. You can't speed it up. You can't force clarity. All you can do is stay solid in yourself and let him figure it out. And that takes trust. Trust in yourself that you're worth it. Trust in him that if he's the right one, he'll get there. Trust in the process that what's meant for you won't pass you by. But most women don't trust. They panic. They try to control. They need to know exactly where things are going and exactly when. And that kills everything because real love can't be controlled. Real connection can't be scheduled. Real feelings can't be forced into a timeline. They grow at their own pace. And when a man feels like you're trying to rush him, he shuts down. Not because he's immature, but because he knows that real commitment is a big deal. And he's not going to make that decision because you pressured him into it. Think about the best relationships you know, the ones that actually lasted.
Yeah.
I bet in every single one, the woman wasn't chasing. She wasn't forcing. She was just being herself, living her life. And the man chose her. He pursued. He committed. He made it official. Because that's how men work. We need to feel like we chose, like we pursued, like we won you over. When you reverse that, when you're the one Chasing and convincing and trying to lock it down, it never works the same. He never values it the same because men value what we work for, not what's handed to us. So when he confuses you, when he backs up, when he goes quiet, you're actually getting a gift. You're getting the chance to let him choose you for real, to let him work for you, to let him realize on his own that he wants this. And if you can stay strong during that phase, if you can handle the uncertainty without falling apart, you win. Not because you played games, but because you were secure enough in yourself to let him have his process without making it about you. Now, here's the part that's going to challenge you. You ready? Good. When he pulls back, you need to actually have a life to go back to. You can't just pretend you're busy. You can't just act like you're fine. You actually have to be fine. You actually have to have friends, hobbies, goals, things that matter to you besides him. Because if you don't, you're going to be sitting there obsesses over every text, analyzing every word, making yourself crazy. And he's going to feel all of that energy even if you don't say anything. This is where most women struggle. They meet a man they really like, and they make him the center of everything. They stop hanging out with friends as much. They turn down other plans to be available for him. They start organizing their whole life around when he's free. And then when he pulls back, they have nothing. Their whole world was him. And now that world feels empty. And that's when the panic sets in. That's when the chasing starts. That's when they lose all their power. But the women who keep their own life, the ones who don't drop everything for a man they're not even official with yet, they're the ones who stay sane. They're the ones who don't panic because when he goes quiet, they've still got their life. They're still hanging with their girls. They're still working on their goals. They're still doing the things that make them happy. And that energy, that's what pulls him back in. That's what makes him realize he needs to step up before he loses you. Because men can sense desperation from a mile away. We can tell when a woman has nothing going on besides us, and it turns us off. Not because we're jerks, but because there's too much pressure. It's not attractive to be someone's whole world. When you barely know each other yet, it's overwhelming. It's suffocating. It makes us feel responsible for your happiness. And that's not sexy. That's not exciting. That's just heavy. But a woman who's got her own thing going on, a woman who's excited about her life, a woman who's happy whether he's around or not, that's attractive. That's intriguing. That's someone he wants to be around because she's not draining him. She's adding to his life, not making herself his whole life. So, let me ask you this. What's going on in your life right now besides him? What are you excited about? What are you working toward? What makes you happy? If you can't answer those questions without mentioning him, you've got work to do. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that because your happiness can't depend on another person. It just can't. It never works. Every time you make someone else responsible for how you feel, you give away all your power, and men can feel that. We can feel when our attention is the only thing keeping you happy, and it scares us away. But when you're genuinely happy in your own life, when you have things going on that fulfill you, when you're not sitting around waiting for him to text, everything changes. You stop being needy. You stop chasing. You stop making his every move mean something about your worth. And that's when you become magnetic. That's when he can't stop thinking about you. That's when his confusion about whether he's ready turns into clarity, that he better lock this down before someone else does. Here's what actually happens in a man's head when he backs up. He's thinking about his life, about his goals, about whether he's where he wants to be, about whether he can handle a relationship right now, about whether you fit into the future he's building. And all of that thinking has nothing to do with whether he likes you. He likes you. That's not the question. The question is whether he's ready to fit someone else into his life, whether he can be the man he thinks you deserve, whether this is the right time. And you can't answer those questions for him. You can't convince him. You can't logic him into being ready. He has to figure it out himself. And the more you push, the longer it takes. Because every time you pressure him for answers, you're adding another question he has to answer. Can she handle me when I'm figuring stuff out? Or is she going to need me to have it all together all the time? The women who get the man, the ones who end up in committed relationships, they all did the same thing. They let him figure it out. They stayed in their own lane. They lived their life. And when he was ready, he came back. Not because they played hard to get, but because they actually were living a full life that didn't revolve around him. And that gave him the space to realize he wanted to be part of that life. So when he confuses you, when you don't know where you stand, when everything feels uncertain, you have a choice. You can panic and chase and try to force clarity, or you can trust yourself, trust the process, and keep living your life. And I promise you, the second option is the only one that ever works. Not sometimes, every single time. Now, I want you to think about something. What if his confusion is actually protecting you? What if him backing up to figure things out is better than him jumping in too fast and then realizing later he wasn't ready? What if this whole messy, confusing phase is actually him being responsible, actually him being mature enough to not waste your time by committing before he's sure? Because that's what's really happening. Men who don't back up, who just jump right in without thinking, they're the ones who leave later. They're the ones who realize 6 months in that they weren't ready. They're the ones who break your heart after you're already attached. But the men who take their time, who back up to think, who confuse you now, they're the ones who stay when they finally commit, because they didn't commit until they were sure. So yeah, it's confusing. Yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, it would be easier if he just knew right away. But that's not how real lasting love works. It takes time. It takes processing. It takes both people figuring out if this is what they actually want. And if you can handle the confusion without falling apart, you're setting yourself up for something real, something solid, something that lasts. But if you need certainty right now, if you need him to know right now, if you can't handle the in-between phase, you're going to push away every good man who crosses your path. Because good men think before they commit. Good men take relationships seriously. Good men don't just say, I love you, and let's be exclusive in the first month because it feels good in the moment. We wait until we're sure. And that waiting period, that's where most women lose us. Not because the man didn't want them, but because the woman couldn't handle not knowing, couldn't handle the uncertainty, needed everything defined and labeled and secure before the man was ready to give that. And so she pushed and he ran and she blamed him for not being ready when really she just didn't give him the space to get ready. Think about anything important you've ever decided. Did you decide it in a day, or did you need time to think about it? Did you need space to figure out if it was right? That's all he's doing. He's making sure because unlike casual dating, unlike just hanging out, commitment is huge. It changes everything. And he wants to be sure before he says yes to that. Not because he doesn't like you, but because he does. And he wants to get it right. So when he confuses you, remember this. His confusion isn't about you. It's about him, about whether he's ready, about whether he can be what you need, about whether this is the right time in his life. And you can't answer those questions. Only he can. And the best thing you can do is let him, without pressure, without guilt, without making him feel like he's doing something wrong by needing time to think. And here's what's wild. The moment you actually let go of needing to control it, the moment you stop trying to force clarity, the moment you just accept that it'll unfold how it's meant to unfold, everything shifts. You stop being anxious. You stop obsessing. You start enjoying your life again. And he feels that shift. He feels you relax. And that's usually when he relaxes too. That's usually when he figures things out because the pressure's off. He can think clearly now. He can feel what he actually feels instead of just feeling pressured. This is why understanding how a man thinks changes everything. Once you get that men process differently, that we need space to feel our feelings, that we back up when things get real, you stop taking it personally. You stop thinking something's wrong with you. You stop panicking. You just let it happen. And that's when you become the woman every man wants. Not because you're perfect, but because you're secure, you're patient. You're strong enough to handle real love with all its messy, confusing parts. So, let me ask you one more time. When he confuses you, when he backs up, when he goes quiet, what are you going to do? Are you going to panic and chase? Or are you going to stay solid and let him figure it out? Your answer to that question determines everything. Write it in the comments. And if this helped you understand men better, hit like, subscribe, and share this with every woman who needs to hear this truth about how men actually fall in love.